Hello, everyone, and welcome to Great.com Talks with. I'm Dani, and today I'm talking with Kira Mashek, the Special Projects Content Manager at Harvesters, the Community Food Network. Now, if you haven't heard of them yet, Harvesters mobilizes their community to create equitable access to nutritious food and addresses the root causes and impact of hunger. Before we go there, remember, if you're new here to this podcast, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Hi, Kira, and welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Danny. Thanks so much for having us. We appreciate the time.
It's our pleasure. We are really glad that you joined us today for this conversation. Let's begin knowing more about your story. How did you get involved with this cause?
So I've been just here for about a year, but our organization has about a 40-year history in the greater Kansas City, Missouri community. So we're based right in the middle of the heartland, the Midwest in the U.S. here. We serve 26 counties in Missouri and Kansas, and we're part of a national network under the Feeding America umbrella, which is a national organization that supports about 200 food banks all across the country. And we're considered one of the larger food banks based on our geographical area that we cover, the number of meals we provide every year to the people who need it in our community.
Oh, this is truly wonderful. It's a vast region, actually. It must be a challenge to be at service of such great community. Could you give us some context of the hunger and food insecurity situation in all of those places, especially after COVID? We've been chatting before this recording, and you were telling me how complicated things have gotten during and after. So tell us what's going on right now.
Like much of the world and many businesses, we've had a significant, change in how we do things and the way that we serve people in our community. For more than 2 years now, since the pandemic began, it's impacted pretty much every aspect of our operation, namely, as we talked about with the need. We know that about 1 in 10 people in our community across all age levels face food insecurity. And food insecurity is basically defined as someone who does not know where their next meal is going to come from. So 1 in 10 people in our local area are in that situation where they're not sure how dinner is going to happen tonight for their family. So we are obviously here trying to meet that need. It's a big part of what we do. Operationally, we've seen that need increase dramatically over the last 2 years. When the initial COVID shutdowns began at the beginning of the pandemic and many people lost their income, lost their jobs, they turned to our network for the first time in their lives, in many cases, to receive food assistance because there were no paychecks coming in, and how are they going to feed their family? So we saw a need shoot up almost overnight by about 40% in the first couple of months of the pandemic. It did start to level out over the next year between 2020 and 2021 as people went back to work, started to get things back in order. But now, as we're seeing all over the globe and here in the United States, food prices have escalated astronomically over the last 12 months or so, along with high gasoline prices. And those two things affect the bottom dollar for so many families. So our need now is still 20 to 30% higher than what it was prior to the COVID pandemic beginning. And here locally at Harvesters, we're feeding 226,000 individuals every month. So it's a very high need.
Wow, it's a really high number. I'm actually shocked. We have been facing those adversities as well here in Brazil. As you said, it's a global impact, and it's just really shocking to see so many people for the first time in this situation. I said that your mission statement is to address also the root causes and impact of hunger, but it's complicated when you look at it and you see that it's a very meaningful and impactful moment, and it's not exactly a root cause because it's something that adds up to what a social problem that already is happening, right?
We know a lot of people are living on the margins, and during a recent hunger study that was conducted in our area, many of the participants identified that they're making choices every month on whether they can pay a bill, whether they can pay medicine, whether they can pay insurance, or whether food is going to be the expense that they're able to cover that month. So we know that families are faced with difficult choices every day over what can I afford. And so when it comes right down to it, when you're looking at every line item in that budget having gone up significantly here in our community, A lot of individuals are also facing astronomical rent prices right now. Those have been going up as well. So when you're seeing your rent go up, utilities go up, the price of gasoline for your car to get to and from your job go up, and now your food prices have also in some cases gone 30 or 40% higher than what you were paying a year ago. Something's got to give. And that's where we're seeing families, now turning to our network of food pantries and mobile food distributions and community kitchens, asking for that food assistance to make those dollars stretch a little bit further through the month. And when we look at root causes, this is really a growing area of what we do in the community for food. So we want to look at, we know that there's always going to be a certain component, a certain part of the population that's going to need food assistance. It might be because you just lost a job, you just got a major medical diagnosis, and your whole budget has been flipped upside down because of the situation that you're in. So there's always going to be some element of emergency food assistance that's needed. But we also know that there are people who chronically rely on food assistance because of their, in a low income job. They may be in a part-time position that they've never been able to get full-time hours. There's a number of factors that might put somebody in that situation where they just are constantly in need of assistance. So when we're looking at root causes of hunger, we have a program called Food Plus, where we look at all the different barriers that someone may face to be more successful. So is that a better job? Is that better transportation? Is it better medical care? So we actually have partnerships, for example, with dozens of local healthcare institutions in our community, where when a patient comes in, they're actually asking them during that initial visit, are you food insecure? Do you know where your next meal is coming from? And if they answer, no, I don't know where my next meal is coming from, then they hook them up with our community network to help get them that food assistance. We also have some incredible programs within the healthcare sector where we provide healthy food boxes, for example, to diabetic clinics of items that are low salt, whole grain, things like that. So when you're able to improve someone's health because they're now getting access to better food that maybe they couldn't afford, you can see a dramatic impact in their overall health and well-being, and potentially even no longer having a need for food assistance at all. And we also have some incredible partnerships with vocational training programs in our community. So one example is we work with a great organization here in Kansas City, Missouri called the Grooming Project. And they take low and at-risk women and train them to be pet groomers. And while they're in that program, they do receive a small stipend, but they're basically going to school full-time and trying to support potentially multiple children, a family, while they're going to school. So we actually have an in-house food pantry at the Grooming Project where participants can receive food while they're going through the program. So it's kind of an additional incentive to get them on the path to a higher wage job that hopefully then when they graduate, they will no longer need any kind of assistance. And in fact, that program in particular has about a 95% success rate within 6 to 8 months of individuals who've completed the program no longer needing any form of public assistance. So it's those kinds of really unique partnerships that we're really investing in now, because I heard when I first started here, and it sounds like a crazy principle, that we actually want to put ourselves out of business. We don't want to have to be, a need in the community. And so the more that we can address not only the immediate needs for food, but what people's long range looks like, the better off we'll all be as a community.
Well, I'm really glad you brought all of those things up to the conversation, because the first thing that I always think whenever I'm talking about this sort of help is that usually people try to, or not try, but they go to thinking that, oh, it's just a food bank. It's just to give out food. If I need the food, like the produce, I need to go there and get the help. But it's way more than that. And it's just incredible the work that you're doing. And I really want to talk more about those projects. And again, I just want to say before we go there, I'm really happy to hear when when you say that, oh, our goal for the long run is to get out of business, because this is what it is about. I strongly agree with that. But now, going back to the programs, another of things that I saw that you had, and I thought it so brilliant, is you always have this idea of educating people about healthy choices and nutrition education, and just not, as I said, not just meeting the need for the actual food, but building awareness about the situation. Could you explain a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, so we actually have a couple of nutritionists that are on our staff here at Harvesters, and they serve a couple of really important functions. One of them is that we participate in a couple of federal nutrition programs, and also a lot of child feeding programs that have specific nutritional guidelines. So one of the important roles that they play is in selecting foods that are nutritionally appropriate for the different populations that we serve. So, a child is going to have a different nutritional set of needs for a bagged lunch that they're going to take home. Along with, we also have a program called Back Snack, where we fill up these bags with kind of pop top, easy to eat foods that kids get on a Thursday or a Friday at the end of the school week so that they have food for the weekend, because we know that when school lunches aren't being served, that's another critical need. So we, at this Back Snack program, our nutritionists also help create what goes in those bags based on nutrition guidelines. And then we also have senior food boxes for those 65 plus that, again, have a different nutritional set of needs. So they look at what items can we put in these food boxes that will be healthy for that population. And as I mentioned earlier, the diabetic and healthy food boxes that we do, those are all low salt or no salt added foods, whole grains, things that are really healthy for someone who is trying to potentially weight manage, get diabetes, high blood pressure, things like that under control. So that's another area where they pitch in their expertise to be able to help us put the best food products that we can into those boxes. And another area that they work in is community-based education. So they do a lot of programs virtually, as also in person, with our business community, with our school community, to talk about what items can you put on your plate to have a well-rounded meal. And they also included in that talk about these other pieces where these are important decisions that we make when we're going out and feeding people in our community that need food assistance.
Wow. For everyone listening here, we're just going to cover some of the programs that they have, but I really tell you to go to their website, which is harvesters.org.org. You can find a link to them on this episode description and on our website as well. And you can have way more information than we'll be able to cover here today, sadly. And you can actually learn how to get involved. And just quickly moving to that point, you mentioned some of the partnerships that you have, and that is one important question I need to ask you, I think. That is, how can other companies or small businesses or people that actually can become partners, can get in touch with you to see what is needed and how they can help?
So we have four main ways that we encourage the community to get involved with the work that we do. And that's to give food, give time, give money, and give voice to the issue of hunger in your community. So to kind of break those down, give food, that's pretty simple. Here locally in the Kansas City and Topeka communities, we partner with Price Chopper and the Dillon's grocery store chains. And we have large blue donation barrels in the entryway of those stores. So when you go in to do your normal grocery run, you can pick up a couple extra canned goods and put them right in the barrel on your way out. And that will come right here to Harvesters to help us feed our community. We also have a lot of amazing groups in the community, businesses, different organizations who will host food drives for us. And we can get barrels out to them so that they can do collections and bring that back to our warehouse so we can sort that and get it out to our network of food pantries. And then to give time is by volunteering. So we have great volunteer opportunities here in our warehouse in Kansas City and in Topeka, Kansas. And you can do all kinds of activities here. We do a lot of sort and repack. So all that donated food that comes into our warehouse has to be sorted out so that we're not sending 22 cases of chicken noodle soup, for example, to a food pantry. You want to make sure that they get soup and vegetables and fruits and crackers and snacks and all that good stuff. So that allows us to really get a good assortment out into the different locations that we work with in the community. So that's one of the activities. We have fresh produce bagging lines, and we get a lot of awesome produce here. And that comes in like 600-pound boxes. So clearly no family wants 600 pounds of sweet potatoes. And so we have volunteers that will bag those into individual bags with, 8 or 10 sweet potatoes in a sack that will go out to feed a family. We also have back snack packing lines, the bags that I talked about that go out to our kids in the community. And here in our Kansas City facility, we also have a really incredible USDA certified clean room, which is where we can repackage bulk dry goods as well as meat product. So if we get, for example, recently, we got in some really large, like 720-pound boxes of Cheez-It crackers that were all in like a huge bin. So volunteers were able to glove up and put the hairnets on and the whole thing and go into the clean room and scoop out the Cheez-Its into individual like 4-pound bags for a family. So all kinds of different activities. And we're open to ages 8+ for volunteer opportunities at both of our warehouses. We can accommodate groups of 50 and larger for companies or schools that want to come in and bring a larger group as well. And then we also, a big part of our outreach is that we partner with 760 different nonprofits across our region to help get food out into the community. So a lot of those opportunities are available to volunteer at a physical food pantry or a mobile food distribution, where food's actually going out into the hands of the people who need it. All of those opportunities can be found at harvesters.org/give-time. And then next is give money. It sounds like simple, and every charity wants, financial support. But really, food banks are able to do an amazing job at stretching the dollars that are given to us. So for every $1 that's donated, we can actually purchase 2 meals with $1. So that's a pretty incredible way to really not have to give a lot and be able for it to go pretty far in what we can accomplish here in feeding people. And then give voice. There are all kinds of ways that you can advocate for hunger, just sharing what you've learned, hopefully by listening to this podcast today about what hunger looks like in your community, by advocating for legislation at your local, state, and federal levels to help support critical programs that fund nutrition support across the country.
Wow, thank you for that. And wow, I'm just having a lot of other questions I unfortunately won't have time to ask. But it's so great because you have all of those resources for curious people like me that very much like to help and unfortunately are not in the region to raise awareness about the subject. And one other important question I have for you today is, if someone that is listening to our podcast today is in food insecurity situation or knows someone in that situation and is in your region, how can they get in touch with you to get the help they need?
We have a fantastic food locator on our website at harvesters.org/get-help. When you go to that page, if you click the food locator button, it brings up a box where you can search by city or zip code, and that will bring up the pantries and mobile food distributions closest to you. We also have a printable calendar with all mobile distributions, which is basically a drive-through where you get in your car, you open your trunk, and they load the groceries right in, and they send you on your merry way. We update that calendar monthly, so you can download that and print it off to save. And if you're outside of the immediate Kansas City or Topeka area and need food assistance anywhere in the United States, you can check feedingamerica.org to find a food bank near you.
Thank you so much for that and for this great conversation, Kira. I learned a lot. I was curious a lot. And I do raise this request to people to go to your website and learn more and donate if they can and help in any way they can. It was lovely chatting with you today.
Great to talk with you as well.
And for everybody listening, also, thank you so much for staying here with us one more time. And remember that if you enjoyed this episode, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app, because that shows the algorithms that this is an important conversation and we can raise awareness about the importance of the Harvesters Community Food Network. Bye, and see you at the next episode.